I have to start with bad news. 8 Conservative councillors have announced in the last few minutes that they are defecting to Reform UK. I mean, you know, they pick their timing, don't they, Kemi Badenoch?
Well, I'm always very sorry to lose people from the party, but as you can see from this conference, we are changing the Conservative Party, talking about a stronger economy, stronger borders. Reform is a party that wants to spend more on welfare. We know there's some Conservatives who agree with those.
I mean, literally, you're saying, oh, well, these people are leaving the party, but we're talking about a stronger economy, but they're promising more welfare. Yeah, did you not see how the public reacted when Labour tried to cut welfare twice? Have you seen how far it's pushed them down in the polls from a giant majority? And you're saying, oh, we're changing this party and making it even worse. You tried welfare cuts for 14 years. Did it work? Did it fuck?
Policies on increased welfare, on nationalisation, and if that's what they think is right for them, then we're sorry to lose them, but we need to make it very clear that we are the party of fiscal responsibility.
I mean, again, you say that if they want to have nationalisation, I mean, most Tory voters want nationalisation. Reform UK don't believe in nationalisation. They don't believe in that, and they are just doing it because they know it's what the voters want. Your tactic is to look at something with a giant overwhelming consensus that has been there the entire time that you've been in government and telling people that actually, no, we were always right the whole time, even as you poll in the fucking mid-teens. At least Reform realise what way the wind is blowing.
Do you think that Robert Jenrick, your Shadow Justice Secretary, would be more at home in the Reform Party? He seems to be turning into a bit of a headline-grabbing liability for you.
Robert is a fiscal conservative. There's only one fiscally conservative party, and that is the Conservative Party. He is a member of my team. We're a strong team. We work well together, and I'd rather have Robert around me in the shadow cabinet than not. He's doing a great job.
I can't imagine.
Literally, you keep saying about fiscal conservatism. It's the fiscal conservatism that everybody hates. They hated the austerity, they hated the stagnating wages, they hated the destruction of public sector investment, they hated the removal of the social infrastructure, they even hate welfare cuts. Despite them polling in favour of reduced welfare, whenever anyone tries to cut welfare, they hate it. In reality, right? Polling isn't actually representative necessarily of people's actual reaction to policy prescriptions. You talk about fiscal conservatism as if people want it. Like, Reform are a party led by fiscal conservatives, and even they are admitting the fiscal conservatism has run its course and nobody wants it, right? You are speaking to Mr. Arch Thatcherite, Nigel Farage, who praised Liz Truss's mini budget. These people don't do it because they know people don't want it. All you are doing is looking at 14 years of Tory economic failure and going, more of that, please.
Saying, and perhaps I'm wrong, that if you'd gone to Handsworth in Birmingham, he says, I didn't see another white face, and that's not the kind of country I want to live in. What did you think when you heard that?
Well, a lot of the comments, I believe, are taken out of context. It was a much longer conversation, and the beginning of the conversation has not been aired. What I know that he is concerned about, which I'm also concerned about, is an increased separatism in our country. We are a successful multiracial country. We need that to continue to be the case. But there are many places where we can see that things are changing. In extreme scenarios, we look at what happened in Manchester just last week, where hatred just spilled out onto the streets and killed.
Well, yeah, like, it turns out there are some wrong-uns in society, right? Like, you can't stop every eventuality of a wrong-un doing a wrong thing. The question is the frequency and the level to which it happens, which it doesn't happen on a particularly high level in this country, you know? You want a country with a real violence problem? Look at the United States. Look at America. They have a violence problem. We don't.
British Jewish people. Very significant today, October 7th. It's the 2-year anniversary of that massacre. We want people in our country who believe in the UK. And what we have seen in Birmingham is a rise in separatism. We've seen MPs elected on a pro-Gaza separatist ticket. That's not...
I mean, yeah, when every single political party who can get elected in those constituencies is fully throated supporting a genocide, of course people who see their comrades being genocide are going to want to vote against it. Again, this idea that it's somehow Muslim separatism, maybe that's the case for like Adnan Hussein, but I don't think it's necessarily the case everywhere else, is somehow the driving force behind this and not a catastrophic failure of the entirety of our political elite in this country to acquiesce to the broader political opinions of the anti-genocide people in this country. I think it's personally reasonable for them to abandon the mainstream parties towards local candidates. Talking about a pro-Gaza ticket, it was an anti-genocide ticket. People were furious about the genocide that this country supported twice. Both the Tories and Labour supported the genocide.
Something that we agree with.
The interesting thing is that your former mayor of the West Midlands, the Conservative Andy Street, says that Robert Jenrick is wrong on this. I think he would say you were wrong in what you just said. He said, putting it bluntly, Robert is wrong. It's a place I know very well, Handsworth. It's come a hell of a long way. He says it's actually one of the most successfully integrated places in the UK. He says you see Sikhs, Hindus, Muslims, Christians, a lot of them of African and Caribbean origin, and of course white people as well. Brilliant civil society, brilliant faith leadership. Andy Street, the former Conservative mayor who knows that place really well, says it's become more integrated, but what you're doing is agreeing with Robert Jenrick, peddling Nigel Farage's lines about...
I mean, essentially because they want to start a race war because they know they can't win on the economy. I mean, they think they might be able to win on the economy, but they know they'll win a race war election much easily. And Andy Street is right. We are well integrated. It is a good place to live. I mean, it's been run down economically, but then again, most of the Midlands and the North have because of the political policy of the Conservative Party and their friends on the Labour right.
It's getting worse.
Well, I completely disagree with that, Ed. Rob was saying what he saw, Andy is saying his experience. What I do know is that there were...
Well, yeah, because Robert Jenrick just wandered fucking through it because he wasn't in his leafy Newark empty suburbia, you know? Like, he was in an actual multicultural area of the country and just was like fucking looking around for white people. Yeah, that's because Robert Jenrick's a fucking wrong'un, isn't he? I'm sorry, it's no more complex than Robert Jenrick is just a wrong'un. If you're out there counting the colours of the faces of the people that you see, then that's wrong'un behaviour. Andy Street, who's actually been the mayor of the area, who has spoken for and represented that community, knows far more about that than leafy Nowheresville resident Robert Jenrick.
MPs elected in Birmingham on a sectarian ticket. That is not integration. We have Birmingham MPs talking about airports in Pakistan.
Again, this idea that it's somehow sectarian to be elected on a foreign policy issue. It is not sectarian to care about foreign policy. I'm sorry. This is nonsense. This is nonsense.
Than airports in the UK. That is not good integration. We need our politicians to be focused on what is happening in our country. They're more interested in what's happening in Gaza than in getting the bins cleared up on the streets of Birmingham. That's what we're worried about. And right now, we want people to...
First of all, people can care about multiple things at the same time. It's perfectly easy, it's perfectly reasonable to care both about the genocide in Gaza and the bin strikes, right? I care a lot about the bin strikes because I have friends in Unite the Union. I'm a trade unionist, and I don't think that workers' rights and workers' pay should be diluted to fix council messes. I don't think that's true. But second of all, right? Second of all, concerns for what's happening with the Birmingham bin strikes are very high. Is that as important as genocide? Is that as important as genocide? Don't think it is. I really don't think that the bins are more important than massacres of children.
Get back to what we need to focus on. How do we get a stronger economy? How do we get stronger borders? I spoke in my speech about how we're a multiracial country, but we mustn't become a multicultural country where people are moving into different parts of society, not having shared values, not having shared loyalties. If we fragment, we're not going to have a stronger economy and our borders will continue to be insecure. And that's the message we're pushing at this conference.
With respect, I mean, I would have thought Andy Street is the person who is most likely within the Conservative Party to know the reality of what is happening in Birmingham, the West Midlands, because he was the Conservative elected mayor there for a number of years. But let me just ask you about this wider direction in policy. We read on the front of the Times today, your Shadow Home Secretary is saying he wants to reintroduce stop and search by the police without them having any ground for suspicious activity. He's just going to...
Yeah, that stop and search policy that famously never worked as well, you know? Just always going back to, well, we can't win on this, it's just more crackdowns at a time when crime is continuing to go down too. More crackdowns and more cuts. It's all they know how to do, crackdowns and cuts. That's it, that's their only politics.
Tell the police they've got to do random stop and search. You have the Shadow Justice Secretary, Robert Jenrick, saying he wants to take political control of sentencing away from the judges. And this feels like a rather authoritarian lurch from the Conservative Party, again, I think, in a reform direction. And I'm just asking, are you as leader in charge of what your Shadow Home and Shadow Justice Secretary are saying? I mean, are you endorsing this?
Of course I am. These, of course, yes. These are the things that we want people to know we are doing. We're going back to authentic conservatism. The sentencing used to be in the purview of the Lord Chancellor. That's what we want to do. This is not a strange thing. This is what we had in our country for many years. We tried the Sentencing Council, and we've seen it do things that it should not be doing. Just earlier this year, it was putting out proposals offering different sentences for people based on their race and religion. That's absolutely.
No, they didn't do that. That's a total lie. She's a fucking... Oh God, I just can't stand these people. Oh my God, it just takes me... Absolutely drives me around the bend. They didn't say people should have different sentences. What they said was they should have pre-sentencing reports that took into account people's backgrounds. That's literally it. They was taking into account people's demographic backgrounds when talking about pre-sentencing reports. They were not changing the lengths of sentences. They were not talking about changing sentencing guidelines for people based upon their ethnic background. That didn't happen. She's fucking lying. She's read it again. All she did was read it on Twitter and repeat it on the TV. Like that's all she does. All she does is repeat shit from Twitter on the TV. That's all she does. She's so fucking pathetic.
Absolutely not right. We do need more stop and search. Knife crime is getting out of control, especially in cities like London. Sadiq Khan is not doing a good job. We do need more stop and search. I trust the police, and I believe that they will do a good job. But if we want to look after young people's safety, then we need more stop and search. And do you know who tells me this more than anyone else? It is ethnic minority parents, Ed. They are very worried about their children going out and getting hurt, and they want the police to look after them. So that's why that's our policy.
A ninth councillor has just announced they are defecting to Reform UK. I mean, I think that, you know, people watching might start to feel sorry for you, and I'm not sure that's something you want people to feel.
Oh my God. This is just absolute cinema. Just going, yeah, we just had even more resignations since you've been speaking to us. Isn't it bad that people pity you now? Like, and it's true, we kind of do pity her. I mean, I don't, obviously. I'm literally here eating my popcorn, watching the demise of the Conservative Party in real time, watching 200 years of Conservative politics being destroyed by commitments to Thatcherism and the eradication of the social contract, whilst being led by somebody with the charisma of a fucking wet flannel, you know? Like, I'm enjoying it, but the fact that Susanna Reid, of all people, is going, oh, bless. Oh, bless. What's happened during conference as well? Oh, no. Oh, we really do pity you, Kemi. It's sad, isn't it? And I'm like, may seem sad to you, but I am going to relish the destruction of this rancid political entity. Authentic conservatism, having the police harass and profile people with no explanation. Yeah, exactly. Like the traditional conservatism of the consent of the governed and the Peel reforms. Yeah, clearly she believes in this. Wonder if she even knows what the Peel reforms even are.
They absolutely should not. Just last year, we had MPs jumping to Labour because Labour was doing well in the polls. They're not doing so well now. There are some people who will leave because all they want to do is win elections. They don't know what they're winning the elections for. We are making it very clear what we are doing this for. It is for the people of the United Kingdom. We want to give them a stronger economy. We want to give them stronger borders. We're the only party tough enough and competent enough to do both. It's going to be a long journey back from a historic defeat, and on very long, difficult journeys, you will lose some people on the way. But if these people cannot stick with us because opposition is difficult, then they're not going to be able to stick with us when government gets difficult.
But again, the thing is that these people have essentially understood the Conservative Party's feeling like they have a divine right to rule will be the end of them. That's fundamentally the point. Like, I've never wanted to retweet Aaron Banks, of all people, believe me. But I felt compelled to last year during the election season, right? Where Sebastian Payne was writing in the iPaper about how selfish it was that Reform UK voters were going to destroy the Conservative Party because they refused to vote tactically and wanted to vote for a party that actually represented their values. Values I disagree with, of course, for many reasons, but they at least wanted to vote for something that represented them rather than a party that not only had failed them and taken their votes for granted, but fundamentally didn't believe in the things that they believed in. Like consent of the governed, like things like a social contract, right? You know? The interests of young people more broadly. And so they did not vote tactically for the Tories and punished them by voting for a third party and splitting the vote. It's as simple as that. And Sebastian Payne having a fucking whinge fest that the people who he felt he had an entitlement to the votes of were voting for somebody who they wanted to vote for instead. And Aaron Banks retweeted him going, "There's many reasons to enjoy the demise of the Conservative Party and many reasons to hate the Conservative Party. But the greatest reason to hate the Conservative Party is their giant overinflated sense of entitlement." And you know what, Aaron? I fucking agree. I absolutely agree. There is nothing that describes the Conservative Party greater than the word entitlement. An entitlement to the hard work of everybody else, an entitlement for the right to rule, an entitlement to do what they see fit at the expense of everybody else, and an entitlement to the kind of politics that puts the interests of their donors before the interests of the public at large. It's as simple as that. They are a party that reeks of entitlement. And to see them being demolished because they refuse to let that go, they refuse to actually listen to members of the public, they refuse to govern in the interest of everybody rather than just people who they thought were their voter base, has become their undoing. And honestly, you love to see it.
That is why I am continuing the journey. We are coming back with strong policies, a very clear message. We're bringing back authentic conservatism. There is only one Conservative Party, and that is our Conservative Party.
William Hague became the Conservative leader after 18 years of Conservative government in 1997, lost the 2001 election, had a very tough time in that parliament. He famously said, looking back, he became the Conservative leader too early. It would have been much better if Michael Howe had been the leader before him and he could have taken over at a time when the Conservative Party had a chance to win again. I wonder, do you think you're likely to look back on your time as leader and agree with William Hague that it just all happened a bit?
Well, no, because William Hague became leader too early because he didn't have the time to build up a profile before being shot down and a victim of regicide. The issue is that it doesn't matter when Kemi becomes leader of the Conservative Party, because fundamentally she's a shitty politician that everybody hates. She is uncharismatic in the way that William Hague wasn't. And second of all is that the Conservatives have no room for manoeuvring because their threat isn't coming from the power of the government, it's coming from an insurgent force that's taking their voters from the right. And no amount of timing will save them.
Too early?
No. Do you know why? Because I did this because I wanted to make sure that my party survived. After that last election, I thought this is existential. We could split as a party. I did not want that. I wanted to keep us united.
How's that going, Kemi? How's the whole not splitting the party and seeing you united going during an interview where you've just been told live on air that 9 councillors have defected to Reform UK? Your conference hall is basically empty, and you're even further behind than the most hated government in living memory in the polls. It's not going well, is it? It's not going well. Just absolute cinema for her to be out here talking about having a united party that doesn't split as people literally flee the sinking ship live on air. Incredible. You couldn't make it up.
I was also worried about us running out of money. That's another thing that I fixed. We've outraised every other party. In some quarters, all the parties, Labour, Lib Dems and Reform combined. But this is going to be a difficult journey back because we made mistakes when we were in government. We accept that. And I've acknowledged those mistakes, apologised for what we got wrong, but we can't build a time...
Well, no, you didn't, because what you got wrong was the NHS. People's biggest concerns in the run-up to the election were the cost of living and the NHS. You don't apologise for supply-side labour market reforms that made wages stagnate. You didn't apologise for the NHS that you underfunded from 2010 until 2019 by reducing expenditure on the NHS as a percentage of GDP every single year, the longest sustained reduction in NHS spending as a percentage of GDP in living memory. You didn't apologise for shit like the Lansley reforms, privatising Royal Mail, engaging in austerity whilst using quantitative easing to pump money into the financial services sector. You didn't apologise for screwing young people out of home ownership by blocking things like changes to the planning rules to ensure that we could build more homes for people to be able to buy, right? You didn't apologise for any of these things that created the cost of living crisis, that cemented the cost of living crisis, and screwed an entire generation out of ever voting for your party. The fact that you think that the problem was you didn't do enough austerity, you didn't do enough welfare cuts, you didn't do enough supply-side labour market reform, you didn't do enough NHS privatisation, you didn't sell off enough state assets, shows you that you are deluded. You are fucking deluded. Again, they fundamentally think that the only reason that they lost was immigration. It wasn't people's top concern. It wasn't. It was the economy. It's always the economy, stupid. It's always the economy. And the fact that you can't realise this because you were born with a silver spoon going to a private school, that you married into huge amounts of wealth, and then so wealthy that you refuse to take maternity pay from the Spectator because your husband could pay for everything, and you're out here going, I don't know why people left the Conservative Party other than migration. It's the fucking economy. It's the NHS and public services. It's the welfare state. It's stagnating wages. It's cost of living. These were all the main reasons that you lost, and you cannot fucking acknowledge it, because acknowledging that would be acknowledging that the Thatcherism that you championed for so long is a failed and bad political ideology that has only made this country worse for everybody, apart from a tiny, tiny, tiny group of ultra-rich people. It's as simple as that. And until you realise this, you will be gone forever.
And go back and do it all over again. What I can do is focus on the future. What are we going to do now? What are we going to deliver? Conservative Party has changed. It's under my leadership now. We're getting tougher where we weren't as tough. We're going to be more fiscally responsible, making sure that we live within our means. We're borrowing too much. Young people in particular are very worried. They're having a great conference. They've been talking to me about Mel Stride's first jobs bonus, for example, Claire Coutinho's cheap power plan, lowering energy bills. These are the things that are going to make a difference.
So her cheap power plan, by the way, is in continuing our reliance on fossil fuels that are only getting more expensive and more scarce over time. Again, totally unserious party. Again, when broadly there's an overwhelming consensus about doing things about climate change. Like, genuinely, absolutely hilarious that she still thinks that cutting investments in green energy will reduce bills and will be politically efficacious. And that, like, a jobs bonus is going to be enough when, again, it's supply-side labour market reform that's the problem. You need demand-side labour market reform to increase wages that are too low. And that's been the case since wages started stagnating or started being decoupled from productivity 45 years ago when your hero Thatcher got into power. That's the reality, Kemi. And you're out here talking to young people, again, from posh Tory backgrounds, who, of course, don't need to care about all of those policies that affect wider society, because you're a party of entitled people, of political dynasties.
To people's lives. So this is not about us getting into office. It's about what we can do with it, make people's lives better.
So you say that you acknowledge that you made mistakes. I mean, it was a historic defeat. Was the mistake to let tax go up so high? Was it a mistake to let inflation get into double digits?
I mean, no. It was a mistake that we didn't have high enough taxes, and so our public services collapsed. It was a mistake to be entirely reliant on fossil fuels that were the reason for the cost push inflation. And your answer to this is cut taxes even further, cut more public services, and be even more reliant on the fossil fuels that caused the energy crisis that led to high inflation. What are you talking? Like, the questions and answers here suck so much. They're so bad. It's so funny.
Was it a mistake to let Liz Truss take command of the economy and almost crash it? Was it a mistake to let net immigration reach 1 million? And how do you say to anyone wanting to vote Conservative,
I realise now that you did not listen
to
my speech on Sunday, because I talked about all of those things. I talked about how immigration was too high. This is why we now have much tougher policies. We are leaving the ECHR when we come back into government. We've got a borders plan that's going to fix that. I also talked about us having a budget where we were increasing spending by £150 billion to pay energy bills without saying where the money was coming from. And I've said never again. So I have talked about where things have gone wrong. But there were many things which, even when I was in government, I was saying were not.
It's so funny as well. Yeah, her line here was actually we provided too much support to people for energy bills during the cost of living crisis. Again, caused by the reliance on fossil fuels that she wants to continue under Claire Coutinho's energy plan. This is incoherent. Again, you cannot trust Conservatives with the economy. You couldn't trust Barber with the economy. You couldn't trust Lawson with the economy. You couldn't trust Clark with the economy. You couldn't trust George Osborne with the economy. You couldn't trust Philip Hammond with the economy. You couldn't trust Rishi Sunak with the economy. And you couldn't trust Kwasi Kwarteng with the economy. And you could not trust Jeremy Hunt with the economy. And you certainly will not be able to trust Mel Stride with the economy. They do not know what they are doing, right? Believe me, I do not like Rachel Reeves, I didn't like Gordon Brown, and I have some sympathy with Alistair Darling. At the very least, these people understood how the economy works. They understood about what long-term plans for an economy look like, right? But long-term plans are communism. It's Gosplan now. I'm sorry, you need to understand how your economy is going to move. You need to understand how to prepare for these eventualities. They never did. They engaged in slash and burn austerity that left all of our state capacity completely destroyed at a time of national importance. Fundamentally. You did contractionary policy during a recession, during the greatest recession of all time. Unserious economic dullards who do not know what the fuck they're doing. They never have, they never will. Like, it was necessary to use fiscal expansion to be able to pay for people's energy bills, otherwise the country would have literally collapsed. That's fundamentally the issue. And you should have raised taxes. You just should have raised them. Like, I'm sorry, that's just the reality. You cannot just cut taxes forever, because unfortunately we have an aging society, which will get worse because of the migration that you want to cut. It's crazy.
Not the right decisions. Net zero, for example, a slogan without a plan. It's not working. We're the only country that is complying with the Paris Agreement. A lot of people look at the headlines, look at the slogans, nice title, Climate Change Act. It's not doing anything. I am changing our party because we did make mistakes, but we are the only party that is actually going to get the country out of the mess that it's in. Labour clearly cannot do so. They can't even make small welfare savings. Reform will say anything to get elected, but they don't know how to do it.
We are going to kill poor people. We are going to put poor people into the wood chipper. That is our single plan.
We are the only responsible party, whether it's pushing personal responsibility, talking about fiscal responsibility. We are the ones competent enough to deliver.
Kemi Badenoch, you know, I can sense your frustration. A year ago, you won the leadership election.
I'm smiling, Ed, because I've been having a good conference. I don't know why you're sensing that.
Yeah, we believe you. We believe you're having a good conference, Kemi. Honest. You keep telling yourself that. Hey there, if you enjoyed the video, make sure that you like and leave a comment. That helps the video out in the algorithm. If you subscribe and ring the bell, it'll let you know when I go live. I stream every day on YouTube and Twitch. You can also follow all of my socials down in the description. And if you want to support me in a more financial manner, there's a join button for membership. It's just 99p to be a member on YouTube, as well as a Patreon, and there's some merch there as well. And hopefully I'll catch you on the next video. Take care.